in order to make those decisions, because at the end of the day, those are valuable dollars that small and medium-sized businesses have, and understanding, where they're going to get the best bang for their buck is essential to their longevity.
Right. What kind of importance social media has in your marketing strategy? It's crucial.
Specifically?
No, not in your company, but in general speaking.
Yeah. So in general, I believe, not only because I've came from Facebook, but just because as a fan of technology and social media in particular, I think it's one of the most revolutionary channels that we've ever seen from a media perspective, from a marketing perspective. The reach that you gain from a platform like Facebook and Instagram, and the ability to interact with not millions but billions of people, with very specific or surgical targeting in terms of their interests and behaviors, is unprecedented on any other traditional media channel, certainly, and even on other digital channels. It's limited. So, in my opinion, social media is one of the most revolutionary and most, what's the way to phrase it? It's really democratized the ability to effectively market for small and medium-sized companies, because on top of that, they're highly efficient, and the cost is a fraction of what traditional media might be for an even greater level of reach than you can gain on platforms like television.
Right.
So in my opinion, it's really changed the world. I've seen it firsthand when I was at Facebook. Small and medium-sized businesses just growing at unprecedented rates once they were able to monetize their businesses on the Facebook platform in particular. But I think I'm speaking for social media across the board when I make that statement. Obviously, Facebook is the biggest player in the space, so they have the greatest reach. But it's a truly incredible channel for small and medium-sized businesses to gain an advantage and grow their business in relatively short order.
I tried a couple of times and I didn't get any results, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, what's the difference between having and not having results? I mean, is the content, is how do you apply your money, or is better to grow organic or versus paid? I mean, what do you think?
One of the biggest, and again, the challenges that you've had are the challenges that a lot of small, medium-sized businesses have, right? Because they don't have the resources that a Facebook provides to a lot of, the large companies, the Procter & Gamble's of the world, and they can't afford, true agencies that are experts in social media. A lot of times it leads to those types of outcomes, right? Because it is a very complex combination of things that you need to do in order to have success on that platform. First of all, you have to know how to measure it. Second of all, you have to take not only creative but targeting into consideration when you're building your strategy. And to answer one of the questions you just asked, one of the biggest misconceptions and a lot of big advertisers actually do the same, is thinking that you are going to gain, positive results with an organic strategy on social media. The reality is, you have to pay in order for it to be effective. You just won't gain any reach whatsoever through just organic channels. Now, organic does play an important role in terms of your ongoing strategy, but the most important part of any social media strategy is absolutely the paid media piece. But even with that, again, a lot of complexities, right? In order to get it just right, you have to optimize and iterate different types of creative. You have to test different targets, different interest groups, and it's those combinations that you have to continue playing with until you figure out the sweet spot. Another misconception that people, small and medium-sized businesses do when testing social media is not even really having a defined objective. So there's a lot of different things you can do on a platform like Facebook, but you really have to understand what your objectives are. Whether it's upper funnel and generating brand awareness, or consideration, and from a mid-funnel perspective, and last but not least, obviously driving conversion on the lower funnel spectrum. But you really have to understand what the objectives of your business are in order to know what you can get out of those platforms and how to effectively measure them.
So would you recommend to use social media let's call it advertising for a small restaurant?
Absolutely. I absolutely do. I think it's one of the most effective ways in a specific geographic area within 5 miles of your restaurant, where you can target large numbers of people with specific interests in restaurants or in specific types of cuisines of food that you might be serving at your restaurant. So absolutely, I think it's a very powerful tool for that. In fact, if you look at most restaurants, both big and small, you'll see they pretty much all have a Facebook and an Instagram presence. It's just a visual opportunity for you to showcase, the food that you're serving, to tell a story about your restaurant and what inspired the cuisine. So I'd go as far as to say it's essential for any restaurant to have some type of presence on social media.
Interesting. Now, is that a budget that you consider minimum to have some results?
No, I mean, there's really no minimum budget. At the end of the day, again, you have to really clearly understand what your results are and work backwards. So, if you're talking about a small restaurant that's only looking to reach people in a specific vicinity, say a 5 to 10 mile radius, on all the social media platforms, you can actually figure out how many people are in your intended target, right? If you want to narrow it down to people that have an interest in Italian food, for example, within a 10-mile radius of a specific neighborhood, Facebook and other social media platforms will tell you how many people on the platform are actually part of that cohort, and then you can start calculating back what the effective investment would be to reach, a specific percentage of that group. So if you want to reach 80%, 70%, whatever the case is, you can extrapolate a budget that would be necessary to do that. There's no set minimum. So for some restaurants, they might be able to achieve their goals with, and I'm just making these numbers up, of $500. Within a month, they may be able to reach thousands of people with that budget. For others, depending on what their objective is and the geographic area that they represent, it may be thousands of dollars. So it really does vary.
Interesting. So it's not like I'm going to go and buy ads just like that. Like I could buy ads on radio or TV. You have to pre-plan this. You have to study, strategize, see the zip codes and all that stuff, right? You do. And so it's that type of niche that, I've been trying to focus on to a certain degree, is helping companies, again, small and medium size, that really don't understand how to go about utilizing these platforms and figure out for them how they can do that in an effective way. So yes, to answer your question, there is some back end work that goes into understanding where to even start on social media, and then once you have that, you obviously, the beauty of social media is you can produce creative assets for very inexpensive. You can do it with your iPhone. But that's another part of the equation, is once you figure out the target market that you want to go after, you then want to proceed with creating compelling and appropriate creative assets to run that campaign with. What could be the worst mistake you've seen people doing in this space? People do it with social media in particular? Right. No, there's so many. I mean, again, because there's truly a lack of knowledge of how the platforms operate, it's very easy to make some very basic mistakes. I mean, some of the basic mistakes are like we just talked about, going in and not understanding who you're even trying to target, or understanding what the true objective is. A restaurant may just say, I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm not going to put any paid media. I'm just going to, put up some pictures of the restaurant, put my menu on my Facebook page, and organically hope that people see it, and that's just not the reality, right? So really understanding the power of paid media is one, and I think many people think that the only way to use, or the only effective way for them to utilize social media, or the only way that it makes sense for them, is to do it organically. So that's a major pitfall, because it just doesn't effectively work that way. So you have to invest, you have to put money up front. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an advertising channel, right? And no advertising channel works for free.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. Now, we're Latinos. Most of us are bilinguals, bilingual. How do you navigate the language on social media? English, Spanish, both, Spanglish? How do you deal with that?
Both, and again, it depends the market that you're trying to reach. I can give you some examples. Here in Miami, for example, like LA is a very Latin market. In fact, Miami, I think most people speak Spanish.
That's true.
Probably the highest concentration of Spanish speakers of any market in the U.S.
Even the highway patrol, they stop you and you start talking Spanish, right?
Exactly.
Hey, perdóneme el ticket, compadre.
Así es. Así que aquí en Miami es necesario que le hables al pueblo en español también. Así que tienes que entender, en el caso de mi negocio, por ejemplo, trato de distinguir entre los dos mercados, así que utilizo algo más genérico, más general en inglés, pero también creo publicidad para el mercado en español. Y una de las cosas más importantes que puedes hacer es dirigir esa publicidad que vas a utilizar en español al mercado adecuado. En el caso de Facebook, el negocio que yo creé en Facebook y que manejé por 4 años y medio era el mercado hispano, y las herramientas que Facebook tiene para poder dirigir la publicidad en español a los segmentos de la población en cualquier mercado que sean dominante en español o que sean bilingüe, existen. Así que puedes dirigir esa publicidad en particular a ese segmento, y entonces puedes dirigir publicidad en inglés al segmento que está utilizando más el idioma inglés. Así que es una herramienta muy poderosa para poder hacer eso.
Demographically speaking, when you are targeting a particular demo and you are using social media, are you really thinking in young people, young users, or no, social media is not at all for older people, like 45?
So the reality, and it's funny because when I was at Facebook, one of the things that we always had to clarify for advertisers was people started thinking that Facebook was getting too old. Because there's 2.5 billion people on Facebook. The reality is everyone is on Facebook at this point. It's become a true utility.
No matter age.
No matter age. I mean, my parents are in their 70s and they're both on Facebook. So it's become a much more general utility that everybody across every age group is utilizing. It's truly the most preeminent mass reach vehicle that we have when you just think about the sheer numbers. It's true, social media obviously started with very young people, and there are still platforms that skew much younger. So Instagram does skew younger than Facebook, obviously. Snapchat skews younger. So there are still platforms that are much more concentrated millennial or youth and teen audiences than others. But the reality is nowadays, especially on a platform as broad as Facebook, you can actually reach all age groups in a very effective way.
Interesting. Now, I had a question for you. Do you think that being successful in business is a matter of luck or effort and persistence, planning?
I think it's a combination of both, to be completely frank. I think effort plays a huge part in it. You obviously, when you're running your own business, you're working 25 hours a day, right? You have to go above and beyond, because at the end of the day, you need to feed your family, and the only way you're going to feed your family is by giving 110% of your effort. But at the same time, there's many businesses that building the business just didn't have success. And there's many reasons for that, but certainly luck plays a part in it. I like to think that having not only effort, but also having a good idea and understanding who your addressable market is, and really understanding what you're solving for that addressable market will help you succeed apart from luck and effort even beforehand. So really, understanding what the needs of that market are and what that product solves for them is essential from beforehand. If you start with that, obviously effort then helps grow the business, and certainly, in my opinion, luck will always play a part in anything you do. Because I've seen many successful business models on paper that looked incredible and were led by people on paper who were incredible leaders and extremely smart. And for one reason or the other, for reasons that are still unexplained, the businesses didn't work out. So I